when you try to speak Finnish and people reply in perfect English. Having a go at a
Hey,
language...
Lucia, you're not ready yet. The show's about to start.
No, Jonathan, we have 15 academic minutes. Relax.
Remember, we are in Finland. Everyone here is on time.
Guys, we have been live for a minute now. Get on with it.
Quick. Ready. Hello. Welcome to Study and Stay in Turku. We are your hosts this evening. I would love to introduce Lucia.
Thank you and welcome, Jonathan.
We will guide you through the next 90 minutes of the show tonight.
Yes, the show has been built up for you, but stay in Turku Business Region and all the high institutes here in southwest Finland.
And why are we your hosts this evening? Well, I think we've both studied in Turku. We've both stayed in Turku. We love Turku. We are fast becoming local turkulaiset. And we also can't wait to share our experiences with you this evening.
And because we know the answer to the question even before you know you want to make them to us.
Absolutely. So, but Lucia, why are you excited about the event this evening?
Well, I'm excited because we have to present it first of all, but of course because our amazing speakers. So we will have some real life experience by our Turku alumni. I'm looking forward. Then some word of wisdom because we have two experts in recruitment tonight here with us. And let's not forget, you'll see the book before, our keynote speaker.
Indeed.
And what are you excited about, Jonathan?
Well, I think I'm most excited about you guys at home, the amazing audience. I know there were so many people registered for this event. We really want to make it interactive. So please introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us maybe where you're from, which university you're linked to, and what you want to know from this event, what questions you have for our speakers, because we'll be checking in with you throughout the event.
But hey, let's not forget even our live students tonight. We are here for us, and a shout out to you. We will catch up with you later, so be patient. But let's now introduce our first keynote speaker. So you read the book, haven't you?
I think and certainly I've had a few very Finnish problems in my time here so far.
Yes, so welcome to our Joy Williams. He will talk to us about 3 wonderful ways about working in Finland and how they change him for the better.
Amazing topic, and we're so happy to have Joel here. He is an award-winning author. He's creative director at Ink Tank Media in Helsinki, and he's worked with so many amazing brands creating digital marketing content, Nokia, Duolingo, Microsoft. I could go on.
I'm so excited. But first, I would like you to listen to some welcoming words from the very mayor of Turku, Minna Arve, which is also an alumna from Turku University. So let's listen to those words. Thank you, Minna.
Dear students, you have made an excellent decision in choosing Turku. Turku is a great place to study and stay. The city is a popular destination for international students, which means that you get to meet people from all over the world here. 20% of people living in Turku are higher education students. 2 universities and 4 universities of applied sciences provide a wide range of study options. Turku is also home to fascinating career opportunities for international talents. In addition to the maritime and tech industries, Turku has a strong focus on life science, pharmaceuticals, clean tech, and of course, ICT. Many international students already here in Turku appreciate the city's passion for science, culture, sustainable development, and quality of life. Some of the most breathtaking nature in all of Finland is also right outside your door. As an example, the Turku archipelago has around 20,000 unique islands, and it's not a huge surprise that it has been called the most beautiful archipelago in the world. Also, don't forget to explore the city's many restaurants, shops, bars, and other free time activities. Despite being the oldest city in Finland, Turku is always looking forward into the future. A great example of this is the city's unique and ambitious goal of being carbon neutral by its 800th birthday in 2029. For those already here, I truly hope you have enjoyed your time so far and already planning your future career here in Turku. And for those looking to apply to any of our 6 great institutes of higher education, the city of Turku welcomes you to study and stay in Turku with open arms.
Much for having me. So today I've been asked to talk about the things I've experienced whilst I didn't study in Finland, but I did stay in Finland. And I've had the pleasure of being here for 16 glorious years. And in that time, I've had the opportunity to learn many, many things. I'm quite fortunate that not only have I lived in Finland, I've lived in Canada, and I've lived in Peru. And in all those countries, I have worked and had the opportunity to learn new things from the culture. But clearly, Finland is close to my heart. I've stayed here the longest, despite the weather. So today, what I'd like to do is just share with you some of the things that I have learnt and some of the things that are working here, how it's changed me, how I've adapted, and how I think it's made me a better person. Of course, this is open to interpretation, and this is my own personal experiences, but I think there are certain cultural elements working in Finland that will certainly help everyone increase their expertise and potentially change them as a person too. So I only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to be which is the reason why we only have 3 wonderful ways. Needless to say, there are a myriad of wonderful ways that Finland has changed me, but these are 3 that I think everyone can potentially relate to. So I have my clicker at hand. If it goes terribly wrong, we'll blame the technology, but let's see how it goes. So, 3 wonderful ways Finland changed me for the better. Bush. Okay, oh, hang on, before I get into that, here's the books you may know before, and Very Finished Problems, of course, as well. VeryFinishedProblems.com if you want them for Christmas, fantastic prezzies. But yeah, so who am I? Other than this, other than the social media stuff, which is one of the reasons I'm here, I'm the creative director of Ink Tank Media, and prior to that I was a copywriter. However, when I was in the UK, which is obviously where I'm from, I was a sales manager of a couple of magazines, and I had no intention of coming to Finland until I met a Finnish lady. And subsequently, when I arrived in Finland, I planned to earn my living by writing fiction. If anyone's ever tried to earn a living by writing fiction, they'll find out it's not a very lucrative profession unless you're a huge bestseller. So I then started to work as a copywriter for Second Grey, which was Nokia's agency. And subsequently, after that, I worked for various different companies, such as Bush, basically most of the most iconic sort of international companies in Finland. Typically, they're ones who wanted to internationalize and use English as their language. And that was something that really struck me when I first moved here. I realized that not speaking Finnish was a handicap, so I thought I'll play to my strengths. And at that time, playing to my strengths involved my Englishness and my ability to write copy in English. And if people are planning to stay here, I mean, you all have an advantage in the sense that you've all been living here for some time. I had the advantage that I had sort of work experience, but I would absolutely suggest playing to your advantages and playing to your differences and showcasing your differences and having those as something that you can highlight why it would be a useful thing for companies to have rather than as a handicap. So anyway, these are the companies I've worked with, many more, and I've learned many things with them, and here are just 3, which I hope you'll find useful. So this is how working with them changed me, and I hope, and I think benefited them, the companies I worked with, and the agencies I worked for. Cue drum roll, Bush. I learnt to speak less, which, ironically, I'm here speaking, but yeah, I learnt to speak less, and there's lots of, I mean, Very Finished Problems is very much about the contrast between living in the UK and living in Finland. And when it comes down to things like small talk, we joke about the Finnish inability to engage in small talk. And in contrast, of course, this is a stereotype, but stereotypes do, in my opinion, are based on the foundation of some truth. And in the UK, very much into small talk. You can go to a supermarket and literally become friends with the cashier at the till and have a 5 to 10 minute conversation about the weather, their children, where they're going to eat that later that day. Finland, a very different ball game. So in my experience, when I first arrived here, I was a salesperson and I was used to speaking and presenting. And I soon learned that it wasn't always wise to get him to speak constantly and over people. And the first time I really experienced this was when I was working for an agency, and we'd just done a pitch, and a successful pitch. The company, who I won't name, but is a paper company. They were very happy, and then we took them to lunch. And another cultural difference being, in the UK, when we take clients to lunch, we have a few glasses of wine. In Finland, there was no wine whatsoever, purely water, with the exception of me. And the marketing director, was talking about her love of branded clothes. And I'd have a couple of drinks, and I was very uncharacteristically started launching into one about the evils of the fashion industry, and stupidly called her a brand slave. At which point, my creative director started kicking me, kicking me under the table, and mouthing the words, "Shut up." So, "Shut up, Willans, keep your mouth closed." And after that meeting, he sat me down and he said, "Joel, you're a very capable speaker and you're very able to articulate what you think. However, can you please shut your mouth on a more regular basis?" So, from that perspective, it taught me that silence is absolutely something we should cherish, and that speaking more can sometimes be detrimental. And an interesting fact here, which you could all see, 85% of what we have learned is through listening, not talking or reading. So, number one, I learned to speak less and I learned to shut up. Great quote here: talk a little less, listen a little more, and you'll be a lot wiser. And this is a piece of advice I desperately try to adhere to as much as possible. Still a little bit of a battle sometimes, but nonetheless, one thing that's certainly been useful. And I would never have learned that in the UK, I don't think. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, bush. I got wild about the forest. So, when I first arrived, in comparison to the UK is very much geared towards material wealth. It's very much work hard, play hard. The aim for most people is to work and get as much money as quickly as possible and then retire. And I was fully on board with that when I was in London, and totally bought into that idea that, you know, we should just work and acquire as much cash as quickly as possible. And then I got a job at another agency, which will remain nameless. And I remember the first day I walked in, I was full of nervous energy bouncing around, and everyone else was just shoulders slumped, knuckles dragging along the ground. And I was like, oh man, what have I let myself in for? I think this is meant to be a hub of creative energy. And then I found out that every single person in that agency had a month off holiday, and they'd all arrived back to work on exactly the same day that I started. So the last thing they wanted after a month in the forest was a hyperactive, bouncing Englishman trying to high-five them. So and I was so astonished by the fact that the whole agency closed for the entire month, and that people all had a month off holiday. And I think this is like a beautiful thing, the idea of like work-life balance, where, you know, and I had a really good quote from a German guy. I did a video series called Working Wonders, which I suggest everyone checks out, showcasing foreigners' contributions to Finnish companies. And he said, very beautifully put, that in Finland, in Germany, people live to work, whereas in Finland, people work to live. And I think that's really nicely put, that ultimately, you know, you should work less, enjoy life more, and the consequence of that is that you're more productive. And this is something that I've absolutely implemented in my company, and also, you know, and I've seen it in very many different places. And, you know, there's nothing I like better now than going to summer cottage, chilling out, going feral, probably not quite as feral as the guy in the meme here, but like, you know, just getting at one with nature and working creatively in a different way and not adhering to the 9 to 5 or, you know, not making sure that everyone's on time to the exact minute, which is absolutely something that I experienced on a daily basis in the UK. So work-life balance, and in my case, learning to love the forest. As you can see, research highlighting that actually hanging out in the forest is good for you mentally and physically. So everyone, make sure you get the opportunity to work in the forest whenever possible. Ideally, not chopping down trees, unless that's your thing, of course. So another great quote, I think, from that great, sadly not Finnish, but you know, blonde hair. Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. Thank you, Dolly Parton, for that. So I think that's, you know, beautifully put. And I think Finland, absolutely, in comparison to a lot of the countries in the Anglosphere and probably many other countries around the world, has got that just right, that mixture of working in a way that doesn't burn you out, that makes you appreciate your life and makes you realise that, you know, work should complement life rather than be the be-all and end-all. So that is number 2. And number 3, drum roll, Bush. I learnt the importance of communal nudity. And that's not a sentence I ever thought I'd say to a camera. But yes, indeed, coming to Finland, we've all had that first sauna experience. For me, it was quite dramatic, actually, and dramatic. I would, at the time, wasn't living in Finland. I would come to visit Finland for the very first time, and it was my girlfriend at the time, now wife's, grandfather's 80th birthday. At the time, you couldn't really fly directly from the UK, so I got a flight to Stockholm, and from Stockholm I got a boat to Turku, actually. I got a boat to Turku. In fact, just realised Turku was the very first place I ever stepped foot in Finland, so there you go. And from there, I then got trains, buses, until I was delivered to a farmhouse in eastern Finland. 100 blonde people, grandfather's 80th birthday, little bit intimidating, little bit overwhelming. After half an hour or so, I sat down and everyone was very welcoming. It was a glorious sunny day, one of those beautiful Finnish summer's days where there's not a cloud in the sky and that beautiful blue. And someone said, let's go sauna. And I was like, wow, yeah, cool, that sounds great. Let's go and check it out. So we get down to the shore, everyone gets naked. And I'm like, whoa, I have nothing to hide, but maybe this is a little bit intense for my first family meeting. So that was my first experience. But subsequently, I've grown to love sauna, and I've grown to love all the elements of it, and you know, the whole ritual of it, and that's good for the body and the mind. And you know, the way I think it reflects from a business working perspective is the sort of the flat structure and hierarchy of Finnish companies. In the UK, as people are probably aware, it's a very class-ridden society. Even now, we have like, you know, when you have a queen as your head of state, it's almost inevitable that we're still going to have like a very class-ridden society. And you just don't get that in Finland in any way or form in comparison to the UK. So, and I think that's really reflected in companies as well, where it's very easy to go and talk to the boss. It's reflected even in Finnish schools where, you know, in the UK, teachers were sir and madam, and we all wore uniforms, and it was very like, yes sir, no sir. Whereas here, my children know the first names of their teachers, which to me would have blown my mind as a child. So that's really reflected in Finnish working life. And that's something I personally really, really appreciated. The fact that I can speak to my bosses without fear of like any repercussions, and, you know, we're treated more or less as equals. I've never actually been to a sauna with my workmates. However, the women in my company have all had sauna days together. Sadly, I wasn't invited. But that's certainly something that I think is really reflected in Finnish working life. And something that, you know, for me, coming from a country so ridden by class, is something really to cherish. And something that we can all enjoy once we get employed. So, and as we can see, it's not just, you know, not just the fact it's nice to get naked with people, but also the fact that organisations which employees feel equal grow twice as fast. I think that's absolutely the case here. So, Bush. And this, once again, not in any way finished, but Italian proverb. So, once the game is over, the king and the pawn go back in the same box. And I think, nudity really highlights that. When everyone's naked, there's no hierarchy. We're all as we were the day we were born. And I think that's reflected as beautiful stories about the old president Urho Kekkonen negotiating big deals and huge strategies with the Russian premiers in the sauna. And I can't think of a better place. And even Finnish companies regularly negotiating in the sauna. I've never been down that road. I have had telcos and calls in the sauna, so I have used it as a quiet space, particularly in the last couple of years. But I think it's a beautiful indication and a beautiful realization of the fact that Finnish society is very much a flat hierarchy, and that is something that we can all cherish. So those are my three things, three ways working in Finland has changed me. I've learned to shut up and listen. I have learned to enjoy the wilderness and the forests and the work-life balance that we're able to have working in Finland. And I've learnt to enjoy communal nudity. So I'm sure when you get the opportunity to work with Finnish companies, you'll have many others. I have many others as well. Sadly, I only have 15 minutes. Not sure if I've gone over or under, but very happy to have the opportunity to share these with you. And I hope you found them useful. And I wish you all the best in your search for a Finnish career here in sunny Turku. So now, I think there's some questions. If there's any questions, if there are questions, I'm very happy to answer.
And welcome back, everybody. We're here with Joel. Amazing keynote speech, Joel. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. A lot of things I think that will really resonate with a lot of our audience. I myself, particularly kind of the nudity thing, was kind
you're
of maybe
fully into that.
Maybe for us Brits, it's kind of a little bit more reserved. Certainly, my father-in-law's fishing trip was a kind of interesting way to get to know a lot of family. Indeed. Lucia, what do you think?
Well, I think that my husband will be really into talk less.
Yeah.
Like being an Italian, I should really learn to talk less.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Lesson that I will try to learn. Yes.
maybe we all could learn something. With loads of questions coming in the chat, so please do keep them coming. We do have time for a couple. So, I mean, Joel, you mentioned there about kind of stereotypes, and I think stereotypes are kind of going to be a theme this evening, particularly with kind of Finnish working culture. Your work with Very Finnish Problems, of course, kind of highlights these and kind of playfully, brings them to the surface. How has the reaction been, both from kind of other cultures and from Finns themselves, with kind of highlighting?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was surprised. I mean, I launched Very Finnish Problems as a bet, actually, and it snowballed hugely, and it was a fun thing to do. And yeah, I was surprised how the reaction was. I mean, clearly the reaction is overwhelmingly positive, because the fact there's like 850,000 followers on various channels, and the book was a bestseller, so people liked it. And I think Finns like the fact that they got the opportunity to see themselves in a different light, and I think foreigners liked it because they could relate to it. So in that sense, it was overwhelmingly positive. Okay, I mean, of course, it's not 100%. There are occasionally people can get annoyed, and I think the only time I ever got a critique was when in the book, I called Finns forest people. And that was, to me, that was a compliment. I was thinking like Robin Hood, and these merry men living in the forest. It was like, yeah, you're at one with nature, and bravo. I mean, I'm from the countryside. I'm from Suffolk, which is, my football team is Ipswich Town, and their nickname are the Tractor Boys. That just gives you a sense of where I'm from. So I am from the countryside, and I'm very
Not Buckingham Palace.
No, not Buckingham Palace, sadly. So yeah, I mean, overwhelmingly positive, and it's all done. I love Finland. I wouldn't have stayed here for so long if it wasn't the case. So it's always meant to be in a positive light, even when I'm maybe poking fun sometimes. And often poking fun at myself as well, actually.
Of course, of course.
Great. Well, one of the struggles that international students face, and you mentioned in your book and in your speech, is of course the language.
Yeah.
Finnish is a very difficult
Totta
language.
kai. That's what you're getting, people.
I don't even put myself into
Sorry,
it.
what does that mean?
Oh, my mom is trying to say tervetuloa, and she's like amazing. But back to the language problem.
Yeah.
Like you, anyway, managed to find work very successfully in a creative industry, which usually required a good skill in the Finnish language. How did you manage them?
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said when I was speaking, that basically I realised that, you know, my background was, I was a sales manager of a couple of magazines in London, and I loved my job. And I realised that at that time, selling in English wasn't really an option. So I also studied history, and I studied creative writing at London School of Journalism. So I'd never really obviously not used the history skills or the writing skills. So I thought, you know, how can I use those skills? How can I take my Englishness and rather as a disadvantage, use it as an advantage? And I realised that at the time, Nokia was huge, and they were very much in need of like native English copy. So I sort of reinvented myself as a copywriter. And actually, you know, all the companies I've worked for, I mean, we do English and Finnish at Inktank Media, but they're predominantly English because they're international companies. You know, English is international language, so they're, you know, that they are themselves trying to use English. And you know, you talk about agencies. I've worked with lots of agencies, and my own agency, we had like probably at its height, we probably almost a dozen nationalities. So we have lots of languages happening, and the agencies I worked for were typically Finnish, but the clients were speaking in English. So my terrible Finnish. Oh, it's not so bad now, but still not. Still not.
Group. Don't worry.
I'm in good company.
Exactly.
It wasn't really. It wasn't an issue. The only time it was an issue was really if I was in a meeting and it was droning on and I lost concentration. And I lose concentration even now. I can listen to someone speaking Finnish and I can grasp what they're saying, but if my head starts to hurt, then I switch off. So in short, it wasn't really an issue. And I was fortunate. I worked in an industry where, you know, my clients were using English, so I used my seeming handicap of lack of Finnish
To your
as an
advantage.
And I suggest everyone does that because, you know, for me, the way I used to get work, I never applied for any jobs. I would just email the CEOs of the companies. Okay, these are agencies, so they're smaller, so it's not like a big industry. But nonetheless, I just email and say, this is what I've got, this is what I can do for you. What do you think? And like, you'd be surprised. Okay, it was a few years ago, but you'd be surprised how many people actually responded. So
That's great.
Yeah, this is kind of a really interesting kind of introduction, I think, to our next section, which will be with recruitment professionals and kind
cool.
of this idea
That'd be
of
my cue to
contacting
leave then.
them as well, without being in a polite way. Joel, amazing to have you here.
Yeah,
really
no,
nice.
kiitos paljon.
And
Thank you
so
for the
much
opportunity.
He does.
Kiitos, and hope to see you again in Turku, especially.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, am I off now?
I think let's
Moi
do.
moi.
Okay, thank you, Joel.
Bye.
Okay, what a start to the event. Now we're going to kind of take a little bit of a change of pace. We're going to see a video showcasing some of the educational opportunities here in Turku and kind of highlighting some of the organisers of the event. So enjoy, and we'll be back in a moment.
Wow, what an inspiring video, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And certainly if you want to know any more about any information there, please do visit the website, which is utu.fi/study-and-stay.
Hey, but at the beginning you asked our audience where they were from, and
Did.
we have amazing replies. So we have
Okay.
people from Vietnam,
Mhm.
Brazil, US,
Mhm.
Pakistan, UNS was very funny. So all over the world they're following us.
Fantastic, fantastic.
But what's next?
So get ready to take some notes now, because here on the stage with us we have two recruitment professionals who are here to provide their knowledge, their expertise about career searching in Turku and other services that can help you find your path and stay here after graduation.
Yes, I'm excited about this. So welcome to Essi Korvanen. Hi Essi, how are you?
Hi, Lucia. I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So Essi, she's a psychologist, executive search consultant, and she's an alumna of Turku University, isn't it?
Yes, yes. I studied psychology here about 10 years ago. I started.
Good, but hey,
Perfect. And also we can give a warm welcome to Mika Salonen, who is project manager at Osaamiskeskus, or the Know-How Centre at the City of Turku. And Mika, I believe you are also an alumnus here
Yes,
of,
yes,
of the University of Turku. So maybe a kind of common
Proud.
theme.
Proud of that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great to have you here.
great. But let's start with Essi. She will share with us some tips about recruitment from the company side. So Essi, tell us more. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot. So, yeah, I work as a recruiter, HR consultant, and headhunter, well, so to say. And I help companies find the right talents, and I help people in different points in their career to kind of reach their potential. And I mostly work in Turku, but also Espoo and Tampere. And well, I think the general overview for international students and young academic professionals is really good right now, because like the overall situation for any job seeker is really excellent, because employment has increased and unemployment has decreased a lot in the past year. So we are kind of like past the pandemic times, and it's even been talked about the great resignation after the pandemic. So people are changing jobs right now a lot. So it's a good time to get your foot in the door in Finland and Turku as well. And well, from my perspective as a recruiter, companies have difficulties finding experienced talent. So they are more willing to hire new graduates and train them themselves from the beginning. So I think it's a good time to approach companies who are openly hiring or are in silent desperation for new talents.
Okay, it's great to hear from the student perspective. I think that the employment market is kind of opening up, and I guess as students we all know kind of how difficult it is to kind of get your foot in the door and kind of get that first position. You mentioned there about kind of contacting companies, and Joel mentioned the same thing actually about kind of reaching out, and maybe that's a process that many international students aren't so familiar with. So do you kind of have any tips regarding contacting companies directly?
Yes, I do actually. And I would say first and foremost that LinkedIn is your best friend in gathering information. It's an amazing resource to find any information about the job market in Finland. And I think like the first like practical tip from me would be to start searching for the alumni of, for example, your own major subject, to find people who have studied the same things as you before, about 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Look for their profiles and like see what's there, see what they have been doing, where they've been working, what titles have they had in their career. And then when you're in their profile and on the right side there's view similar people or similar profiles or something like that, then you can find more people. So that is how you find, you gather your knowledge. And I will get to the contacting thing as well, because like my second like practical tip would be that you should make a list of about 20 companies you would like to contact in Turku. So once you've gone through people's profiles, you've found interesting companies, probably bigger ones, because I think they would be more ready to hire international non-Finnish speaking people. And then just start contacting. Just be brave and take a phone on your hand and contact the HR department or the CEO directly, like Joel said.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great tip. I think that the biggest challenge at the beginning is networking. So what you said, use LinkedIn and see who is there and who you can contact is a very first practical tips to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And but certainly you're not alone in that regard. So Mika, maybe we can kind of bring in your role. So you have been working at the kind of the Osaamiskeskus, and then the kind of International House Turku project. So maybe you could explain a little bit about the support that's available for international job seekers.
Yes, thank you. That International House Turku is a new brand we're working on now. It's not finished yet, but what we had in mind that we centralize all the service in one point. Then when you're an immigrant, you can have all the services from one desk, as we'd say. And at the moment, we have many different services. We have multilingual advice services. You can advise things, for example, job search, education, where you can educate, or for example, if you need a place for your children, and almost everything you need for integration. We have study and career counseling, both for vocational education and training and higher education. We have Finnish language training. We don't want to call it course because it's too bureaucratic. yeah, a training, and basically we concentrate on speaking and the language you need when you're working or search for a job, and language you need in education. We have also a law advisor if you need, for example, permits or when you think about some law topics in work, for example. Business advisor, if you want to start a business of your own, you can have. And social advisor, that's unfortunately only in Finnish and Kurdish.
Okay.
Not in English.
Perhaps we might have some some viewers
Our
who
audience can find it
indeed,
useful.
so many different languages and nationalities.
And also we have soft landing plans for those who want to move to Turku. So we help in many different ways.
Indeed, and perhaps it's kind of important to note at this stage that these kind of these new services are all available for international students. And I know that, like from experience of maybe myself, when you're an international student, like the universities are very good at kind of keeping you in the university bubble and supporting you, and you kind of have everything on campus that you need. But as soon as you're thinking about staying in Turku, then perhaps the city has a role to play there in terms of kind of being more, I guess, more visible perhaps and welcoming students. We are also kind of, I guess, Lucia, the work you've been doing with Empower Wednesday, for example, is a good example of networking and kind of bringing together some people who are students, some people who are kind of not, but are all interested in similar kind of themes, I suppose.
Yes, Empower Wednesday start for the same reason, because when I arrived, for example, from my own experience in Turku, there was not what you said, everything in one desk. So people have to be creative and go to collect different ideas in different places. So this is a great news and a great advancement from the city point of view for our international students. But shall we stress that all those services are for free? Because a lot of people are wondering.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think like the best thing about Finland and like the public sector is that you wouldn't never like have to be alone. There's always kind of like a service for a different situation in your life.
That's great. And actually, one of the services that you have is the job coaching. And I guess our audience is very interested in it because they come outside from the university bubble and they are starting to wonder what is out there. So maybe a job coach could really be useful for them. But how can they contact him, for example?
Yes, the job coach is one part of that multilingual advice service. And you can contact us actually now 3 different ways. First, you can come to Monitori. I don't know if the people know where is the Monitori. What's it in?
Let's tell them.
Yeah, it's on the corner of Market Square. oh, what's going to be a market square? I mean,
Soon to be.
soon to be. And it's a place where you can buy, for example, bus tickets or tickets for theater or Philharmonic concerts, and you can have all kind of social guidance and guidance for early childhood services, and it's all in one place, and we're there with them. You can come there, you pick a queuing number, and you go to welcome desk. That's one way.
Pretty easy.
Pretty easy, yeah. The other way is send us an email. osaamiskeskus@turku.fi. I think this going to be on chat. It's email.
Yes.
And the third is to phone us. The phone number is also on our website, which I thought was put in the chat. So the website's on English also, so you don't have to learn Finnish for that.
Right. I think having that kind of different ways to get in contact is really good, especially if you are like a person like myself who hates the phone and just wants to, especially
you too.
kind of ringing. I think email is good as well. Yeah.
Shall we see if there's some question from the chat from
Yeah.
our experts?
Maybe we can have a quick.
Yes, because we have a live audience that we will go to say hi later on, and there's surely some question for you. But we have even a lot of students that are following us streaming, of course. So we have over 250 participants, something like that. So
Absolutely. So yes, they have some great questions here. So well, I guess this is to both of you. Maybe Essi can start. So let's say that you do contact a company and you have an interview. You have the opportunity to make an impression and get a position with the company. Are there any tips you would have regarding the nature of Finnish interviews? Anything an international applicant should know? Tough question. No pressure, but
Well, actually, one thing that Joel said earlier, don't speak too much. I mean, of course, when you're in an interview, you need to be very you need to sell yourself kind of to the company, so you need to give a good impression of yourself. But ask questions from the people who are interviewing you, because it kind of shows that you're interested in them and you are a professional at what you do and you know about the thing. So that's one. And I think another tip would be that, well, be honest. Finnish people love honesty, and in a job interview situation, it's hard even. It's hard to find the line when you're kind of exaggerating yourself or when you're talking down on your own skills. So this is something I think you could train with the job coach or with a friend, how to talk about your own skills and your expertise in a way that you're confident, but you're not overly exaggerating.
that's a great question, and I think that our international students coming from different backgrounds can find it very useful.
certainly. I mean, Mika, do you have anything from your experience of interviewing candidates? Do you have anything?
Yes, first of all, be on time.
Note.
Yeah, but I think that honesty is something, and do your background. When you go to interview, they may ask you something about what do you know about us. I usually do that when I'm recruiting someone. It
they
shows
show
something
you
how interested you are in that job, to get that job. So do your background.
Yeah.
Find something info about the company or the job.
Yeah, go through the website.
And maybe when you're about to graduate, try to find job and try to do it already before you graduate. That not just that I have to make my thesis and then graduate and then I think about job hunting. What would you say about that one?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to start before you graduate and start seeking and start gathering information, looking for. I say that LinkedIn is the best place to find information on the Finnish job market, and I'm telling you, this is the truth.
We trust you.
Yes, there is so much.
Hey,
so
but
much.
there was really great tips. I think our audience found them very useful. So I think we can say thank you. Thank you to Mika and thank you to Essie. It was great to have you tonight with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
But Jonathan, those topics brought you some memories from your past experience here in Finland?
Definitely, definitely. In this kind of, I remember when I first arrived here, and I was kind of so, unsure about how to kind of move in this direction, and kind of how, it's really great to see now that there are services available, networks available for internationals, new internationals, international graduates. I think when I arrived, which really wasn't that long ago, only kind of 3 or 4 years, I think I saw like a Facebook group maybe of internationals, maybe something on the city website. How about you? How were your first impressions when you...
Yeah, I was telling to Mika before that I had to be creative and jump here and there and ask in different places and offices. And it's a great news that now everything can be found in the same place. And actually, when I start, as I mentioned before, Empower Wednesday was the idea was to create this place, was this series of webinars with these speakers that are expert in the topics and can help international students or talents, why not, that moved here in Finland to find some useful tips like we gave tonight about starting their working path here in Finland. That's what we do for international women, even with International Working Women of Finland Association that I represent here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for any audience out there, or international students, if you are unsure about whether you can use some of these services, be brave, ask, go to networking events like Empower Wednesday, visit Monitori and take a ticket and visit the welcome desk just to kind of see what these services can do for you, and don't feel, that you kind of, that they don't want to help you, because they certainly do, and they can really help in your job search.
That's true, and I took the note about not being late. I have to say that it was really a different cultural shock for me, because being 15 minutes late in Italy is acceptable. It's not very polite, but still acceptable. But now every time that I have an event or I have to start some webinars, I feel that I'm 5 minutes earlier, I'm already late. So I'm rushing into it.
Yeah, I think even as an international student or talent, you have to kind of be willing to maybe adapt your impression of what a working culture should look like, and you have to be flexible and willing to kind of meet Finnish culture halfway, and with a kind of timekeeping. Certainly, I recall my first internship in Finland. I turned up in a very British manner in a full suit in the middle of summer, and couldn't believe that my colleagues were wearing shorts and t-shirts, and I just felt like a sore thumb completely. But I was kind of relying on my impressions of what like an office looked like and what an organization looked like. So, certainly, hopefully, during this event, we can start to unpack some of those stereotypes.
Yeah, I would have loved to see you in those suits.
Now I only bring it out on special occasions. So
okay.
But yeah, certainly when we're thinking about working culture, I think working culture and stereotypes go kind of hand in hand. Fortunately, our next panel will be able to unpack some of these issues and really drill down into what Finnish working culture is all about and how international talents can become part of it.
Yes, looking forward.
Time for the alumni panel discussion.
Okay, welcome back. Now the competition is getting serious.
Oh, but I don't know. I have my University of Turku T-shirt here as well.
Well, I'm an Elbow Academy girl, aren't me?
I think maybe though, as hosts, we should be kind of neutral.
No, I'm a bit competitive, but why be neutral?
Well, fortunately, here in our welcome everyone to our alumni panel discussion, we have representatives of different higher education institutes here in Turku, and we're going to be having a nice discussion about their pathway to staying in Turku after they've graduated. Perhaps we could just have a quick round of introductions, maybe tell us a little bit about yourselves, and especially kind of, I think we had a question in the chat, kind of about what inspired you to work in Turku after graduation. Maybe we'll start with Marketta.
Hello, I'm Marketa. I'm originally from Czech Republic, and I came to Finland about already 10 years ago as an exchange student for Erasmus at Åbo Academy. And I loved it so much that I transferred my studies from Czech Republic here, finished my master's, done my PhD, both in process and systems engineering at chemical engineering at Åbo Academy. And now I'm really happy to continue with what I was doing before, and that's the research and development in Paroc. And I really love to stay in Turku and in Finland, so I'm really glad to be here today.
Oh, Turku enthusiast.
Just what we like to hear.
Thank you, Marketa.
Hi, I'm Shruti. I'm from India, and I came to Finland in 2016 to pursue my master's in molecular biotechnology and diagnostics. I already had my bachelor's in biotechnology from India, and after finishing my master's in 2019, I then continued on to do my PhD studies in the same field. I'm now midway through them. Let's hope it goes smoothly. And then apart from studies, I've also been involved in various development cooperation and international activities with organizations like TYY, which is the student union at the University of Turku, and SIL, which is the National Union of University Students in Finland. And while being involved with those organizations, I also co-founded ISAT, which is the Indian Student Association of Turku. I felt that we could have a platform where students, international students here in the universities could be involved, who are interested in our culture, could be part of it, as well as it would give a platform for Indian students as well to more integrate into the Finnish culture and life. And I feel that during our studies, we also get many opportunities to be part of, to get more career building opportunities, and which is why I've also been involved with very many research pitching competitions. And I feel that's a good way to kind of build your network and get to know more people. And it's very nice to be part of this panel here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Aha. Do you sleep? Because you do too many things.
Yes. Weekends are all for sleeping.
Good. Night rest. Hey, but last but not least.
Yeah, now to follow that up. My name is Mikkel. I am originally from Denmark. I moved to Turku in 2014. And like a lot of foreign guys, I ended up here because of my girlfriend, now wife. She wanted to go to Finland. We moved here because you follow the wife. Happy wife, happy life. I studied international business at Turku University of Applied Sciences, so I've done my bachelor's degree. And I've been working in quite a few companies, like doing my studies as well. I did a lot of different internships, for example, at Plantui, which is a company that does like these indoor hydroponic gardens. I've worked in the different boats that are down here by the riverside as well, and now I am working for a logistics company, and actually a Dutch logistics company, but our Nordic office is here in Turku, Finland. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. So we have we have quite a lot of we also have quite a big international department there. A lot of people from all over the world. So.
Good.
Excellent. Well, delighted to have you all here in such kind of different perspectives as well. And but you're all kind of in the same category of kind of people who've obviously studied here and then due to family reasons or work reasons or study reasons, you've decided to become part of Turku, which I think is such a great thing. But we now have a little bit of a challenge for you. You have your cards there. I see.
The chat is still active, so please keep sending your question because we will love to hear from you, and our panelists will be delighted to answer your questions. So even the bit tricky ones. Are you ready? But no, I'm joking. Let's keep it simple. Would you like to do the first?
Sure. So we have, for the audience, we have printed or prepared some traditional stereotypes of Finnish working culture. And we will put them to the panelists, and you can say if you agree, if you disagree, and maybe we can start. So let's start with this one. There's something
a difficult
big one. So this would be: you need to know Finnish to land a job here. Do we agree? Do we disagree? Okay.
Wow.
Strongly disagree on that one.
The results are in. So strongly disagree. Maybe
I would say.
I would say
it's definitely an advantage to learn Finnish because it gives you so much a wider variety of job opportunities and stuff. But I think Turku and Helsinki mainly the bigger cities are so much internationalized by now that a lot of the companies also are looking for international talent, and with that is also that the corporate language like swaps to English or another language rather than just Finnish. You even see the job postings as well, where they're actually looking for Finnish people, but it might just be all in English as well to kind of like just improve the English of everyone. And I don't think you need Finnish to land a job here.
But talking about these job posts, sometimes I heard people that are really disappointed because you see the post is all in English, and then at the end, the really small prints, native Finnish speaker. What do you think about that? Did it happen to you?
Well, it didn't happen to me, but I know a couple of people who have faced that. And I feel that, as Mikael said, that knowing Finnish will definitely be a big advantage in landing a job here. But then there's that niche. If you're really good or if you have that particular skill in a particular field, then it's much more easier to land a job even knowing with just English.
So we have hope.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes.
Marketa, how have you found?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that we forgot about Swedish, of course.
True.
Very
And
good
then I think that there are, not just in Helsinki or in Turku, even in Pargas, for example. Parok is a company that is an international company, and they also appreciate the diversity. So you should be also happy to search somewhere else and not to give up with the first native Finnish speaker
True.
advertisement. And I think it's becoming more and more interesting for the other companies to hire people that don't speak fluently Finnish and appreciate their background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that idea about fluent Finnish is kind of a really important topic, and I believe, I'm not sure about your experiences, but many of the international masters programs here do encourage students to learn Finnish. There's normally kind of mandatory beginners classes, at least at the University of Turku, from what I understand. And I think maybe kind of demonstrating to an employer that you have some Finnish and you are willing to learn is perhaps like an asset when you are thinking about contacting companies.
That's true. Thank you for your feedbacks. But now it's time to move to the second stereotypes. And it's only lazy people take 6 days. So the stereotypes means that if you are thin and unless it's like life-threatening situation, you will go to work because you feel that your employer might think you're a bit lazy if you don't go. So do you disagree or do you agree? It's time to vote. We have a consensus again.
I wonder how many employers are watching this evening.
So maybe Marketa, would you like to tell your experience about this?
I think that the well-being of the people working is very important for all the employees and employers in Finland, because they know that now if I'm not healthy and going to work, I'm not giving my 100%, of course.
True.
And I think it's also what the employees are valuing from this environment, that they are really thinking also about the hours and about their own health.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important. Thank you. You have some experience.
Yes, I think productivity and efficiency is a big part of the Finnish culture here. So it's more about how many good working days that you can give, and then it's more about the work-life balance here. So if you want to take a leave, I think it's good enough if you're putting in the productive and the efficient amount of work that you're doing.
That's productivity, what Joel was talking about at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you?
Yeah, well, I agree as well. I disagree with the stereotype. I agree with what they've been saying, that Finns, they really value, and all the working place, they value the work-life balance as well. You can see both with maternity leave and paternity leave and all those things that they're giving for people to focus on just improving themselves and getting better and coming back to work and then being able to give 100%. You have the 5 weeks of vacation each year, depending on the company, of course, you work for, but it's so much about giving the employees what they need in order to give, they can give 100% back. You know, it's not just about only Finnish sisu.
Very important
it's
topic.
Like you don't just tough it through it, but that's what you do at work. Like you show your the sisu at work, but if you're sick, stay home. And also now we've had the pandemic, the corona, and everything like that. It's basically any sign of sickness, you've been told to go home. So
quite rightly as well. Quite rightly. I think the work-life balance is such an important topic, and for those of us with families, certainly in the workplaces that I've been at, the working culture has been very flexible regarding not just the leave, the paternity leave, but even just like the day-to-day collecting from daycare or school. You know, I've never had any kind of issues, which is really nice as a kind of parents and people who are thinking about settling here. It's good that you are supported in all aspects of your life. You're not kind of expected to drop everything for work.
True. Work life is one of the marketing highlights of Finland.
Indeed, and it's good to see that you've all had positive experiences, it seems. So.
Great. Shall we move to the next stereotypes?
Sure. Which one should we go for?
Check.
We'll go for this one. So, well, being in the spotlight is the goal in meetings. So I guess the stereotype maybe of Finnish working culture is that often Finns can be slightly reserved, and equally, maybe they don't want the attention to be on kind of one person for too long, and in a meeting you kind of feel like, well, as internationals, maybe we speak more than Finns do. How have you found kind of working with Finnish colleagues in this manner? Would you agree that?
I agree. Did you leak the stereotypes?
I might, yeah. You gave them too much
information. That's why.
Yeah, but Shruti, how have you found working with Finnish colleagues?
I think once you start to get to know them and once you start the communication, they actually open up and become very, very good friends. And I think it's the same with colleagues as well. I haven't found that, of course, in the beginning, they are a little bit reserved. But then I feel like after a certain while, it's just very smooth like any other place. So I haven't at least come across this issue, especially not in the university environment.
University especially, they are very international.
Yes.
So
indeed. So how about in the private sector?
I would say that's actually the same thing, that Finnish people are very, very honest and straightforward, and I think we all value the expertise, and there is no like pushing or so I really value these discussions that we have, because everybody has an equal place and everybody has the same voice, whoever from whichever position can say and add to the discussion. So there is no spotlight.
What about your experience?
It's the same thing here as well, that everyone respects each other. Like Finns are very professional when you deal with them. They are, when you work with Finns, they are very, very focused on what they do, and they are the experts in the field. But it's not like they're gonna push, and they don't want you to be pushing either. It's just the back and forth conversations you're having with them in the professional environment. It's everyone gets the chance to speak. It's just about showing respect to each other. And like Finns, and like once you adapt to them, it's just what you do in the professional environment. I don't think anyone is like trying to steal the spotlight or something. You might come a little bit like Joel said in the beginning, like when he was all bouncing all over the place and they just came back from vacation. That might be because he wasn't adjusted to the work culture that's here. But you learn pretty quickly how to adapt, and also just I think you fit in really well with the Finnish companies very fast.
Okay.
Respect and adapter, I think they're keywords.
Definitely, definitely. Because I was about to, you've kind of preempted maybe my follow-up question, which was kind of talking about like when you've adapted or like when you get to know Finns. Like, do you have any quick-fire tips for anything you can do to help get to know better or better integrate maybe into Finnish working culture? Was there any particular moment when you started your career in Turku when you thought like, okay, this is a great way to make connections with work colleagues?
Coffee. Sorry.
Coffee, definitely.
And they drink a lot of coffee.
Indeed.
Yes. I think taking the first step is very important. If you're the one who takes the first step, then it can, automatically lead to better conversations and better connections. And I feel Finns may be a little bit reserved, but you have to be the one to take the first step. And that helped me definitely in the beginning.
So be bold, like Turku City.
Bold as
Not old, but bold.
Don't be afraid to break through that barrier that can happen as well. It's just like once you get through that, you go, you have a beer with them, you go to the sauna, you have a coffee with people, like they immediately open up, and you're gonna learn that the Finnish people are some of the nicest people.
So you've been to the nudity sauna.
Who hasn't, right?
No, but it's a great way to start connection, and as Marketa was saying, to start on all the same levels. So there's not this hierarchy in job positions here. So you're free to speak. What is your experience, Marketa?
I was thinking about this basically going and show interest and talk to the people. Of course, you can't go really like hello, let's scare the people off, because that would be also too much for some. But the coffee breaks are an ideal place at the workplace or at the university to start the discussions, and you really start to value the dark sense of humor here in Finland. So
especially in the colder months.
so it's really like a straightforward thing to talk to people.
That's great.
We actually have quite a few questions coming in the chat
as
well.
Please.
Maybe I'll turn to this for a second. A little bit of a change of pace. So the three of you managed to land a job after here, and this is kind of maybe a hot topic for many students about to graduate. What is more valuable for landing a job, your grades or networking? Maybe we can do maybe I'll say grades are the best thing, and you can hold the cards up. So would you say that grades are the most important thing to land a job in Finland?
Let's go.
These people, they know each other.
I'm not really sure if the people from the universities are really
So networking is the. Let's try the other way. So is networking the most important things over grade? Let's see how they vote.
I'm like
it's a little bit like back and forth, I think, because it depends on what kind of area you're searching for. Because of course, if it's the university, if you're pursuing a doctoral degree or something like that, of course you need to have good grades for them to invest into you actually studying with them and working for the university at that point. But if it's in the private sector, it's much more about your network and you like being able to show your skills in practice rather than just having the theoretical knowledge of anything. Because of course you can have a nice resume that shows that I studied these things, but then as soon as you get put into the actual position, you might not actually be able to do it. Whereas if you show that you maybe not have had the best grades, but you're really enthusiastic, you're willing to learn, and you're ready to give it all, and then like you can be the best one at that workplace. So I think definitely using the network is a good way.
It's, I think, also important at the university already that you start to show interest. Of course, you can show the interest while you're having good grades, but if you show the interest to the professors and then you have also good grades, then you, of course, also start to have a good network, and you have the place to start with, and that helps, of course, a lot. Already from the university level.
That was Mika was saying at the beginning. So start to job hunting network before you have finished your university.
Definitely, and the most international master's programs here, I guess, are kind of 2 years for a reason. In many countries, you can do a master's in 1 year. Certainly in the UK, you can do a master's in 1 year normally. But here, you have kind of 2 years to not just do your kind of major degree, but you can do the minor, you can do language courses, you can take an internship, you can have, thesis opportunities. So, Shruti.
Yes, certainly in the university, if you want to pursue your doctoral degree, you need a minimum 3 on your master's thesis. And if you want to get funding, getting a 4 is even better, or 5 if you can get that. So certainly grade when you want to pursue doctoral studies is certainly important. But then I feel like, let's say if you want to look for doing your master's thesis in a company, then networking actually is more beneficial there. So it's midway through, I would say, like grades or networking.
Depends on your goals as
Exactly.
Okay.
Great. Some other chat.
Good.
Otherwise,
Yeah,
I
let's
can
go
have
for let's go for
mine.
stereotypes.
I was looking forward this. So, thank you, Jonathan. Self-praising is awkward. So, especially when you go for a job interview, I don't even have to explain this. If you go for a job interview, Finnish people try not to downgrade a bit themselves instead of praising them. It's like, oh, I'm the best. What do you think about that? Let's vote.
That's the thing there.
It's
I can see their mind
not
rolling.
completely.
Yeah, it's like both. kind of
Yeah.
thing,
It's
like,
okay.
I think
Yeah, that's
it's
fine.
you know what I mean?
As long as you can explain your workings.
Well, it very much,
Elaborate.
It very much depends on the situation that you put in and what it is. Because if it's at an interview, of course, they're going to be like, mention your best qualities, mention your bad qualities. And it's a lot easier to say, all the good things about yourself than it is the bad things. Because obviously you don't want to appear bad on an interview. But again, like Finns are very not much like, oh yeah, don't toot your own horn like too much. Like don't be like too much out there and say like you're the best, because like they'll show you're not. It's like it's just about not like you can be like honest about yourself and who you are. And that's what the Finns do. But don't try to brag and just be showing like pretending that you're the best. I think because like there's always going to be someone better at you at something. But just be honest about your qualities, and I think that's what the Finns will appreciate.
Thank you.
Yes, I completely agree with Mikkel. So I don't think I have anything more to add to this. yes, I agree. Be honest.
Let's vote Mikkel's speech.
I would say that you don't have to boast about like what about like what good person you are and how great you are and so on and so on, because I think it mostly shows in your work, and that is also the thing that is mostly appreciated here. That okay, of course I can talk how much I did and so on, but I can just prove with my good work that I'm actually that person that I promised to be.
I have something small to add. Also, don't be afraid to stand out if you have something good.
Yes.
That's also important, because that's how then you'll be, preferred over someone else. So that's also, I don't think people have to be hesitant in doing that as well.
So if you're Joel Willen's going for a job interview, you can mention that Very Finnish Problems has hundreds of thousands of followers, and it won't come across as as boastful. It's interesting you mentioned there about kind of the working, and you kind of prove yourself in your work in that sense. And there's a question actually in the chat that maybe picks up on this thread, and kind of like maybe we can use the agree and disagree again. But like, do you feel that compared to native employees, you have to work harder to kind of prove yourself in the company? Okay. Huge thank you to whoever asked this question. It's hit a good topic. So, well, who would like to?
The disagree first. Shruti, tell us more.
I think it's very natural. Like if you're an outsider and if you're moving to a new country, you have to put in a little bit of an extra effort to kind of, prove that you have more to give than another person, because it's a natural tendency to be attracted to, similar kind of people and give them more opportunities. So I think you have to put in something a little bit more than what the local people here have to put in. But I think that's very normal in any place you go to.
Okay.
That's your experience. And
Yes.
can I add a little bit in the question? Is like the gender even an issue, do you think? Because if we compare to the employments of women to the employment of men, especially a foreigner, women are struggling much more compared to the men. They have like the same background or education. So not only I think that there is immigrants issue, but even a gender issue. Do you agree, Marketta?
I'm from the technology part, so I would say that there are, and I would disagree actually. Here it's very equal in this environment and in Finland altogether. We have the same chances. That I'm pressuring myself to be better and better. That's just my my own motivation, because I feel okay. I'm a foreigner. I should be doing better and so on and so on. But here everybody is equal, and that's what I value the most. That everybody should have the same chance.
Great.
Yeah, because if you look at it, also we have a female president here as well. Like, it's the women running Finland. It's the women running the country. I think here definitely is. But I think as well, like, Finland is a very equal country. Like on par with all the Nordic countries. It's very much about the opportunity for both male and female, and you can see it also in a lot of the works that are like predominantly male, or like used to be more predominantly male. They're taking in much more female employees now and stuff, and like taken out. Like, I work in logistics, for example, which is usually a male dominated one. Our office is like 50-50 male female as well. So we have a good balance there, and you can really feel that, like, here in Finland. I think is very unique to Finland and like the Nordics, I would say.
Thank you. Those are great inputs.
Yeah, and certainly it's great to be that Finland is an environment that champions equality. I know the kind of Han pronoun campaign has been very kind of widely advertised here. Obviously, still a lot of work to be done in this area. Actually, Shruti, if you don't mind, there's a question for you in the chat, and it's maybe very relevant to a lot of our audience, because as an international master's student, I guess in many ways a PhD is kind of like a natural progression of a master's thesis. Maybe you could briefly say a little bit about it. Did you find it difficult to secure funding for your thesis, and kind of how was that whole process for you?
Okay, I know that a lot of students struggle to get funding for PhD, but like I mentioned earlier, getting a good grade on your master's thesis definitely benefits a lot. So, for example, I got a 4, and so for me, getting to that funding, to the interview stage was a very natural process. So if you get a low grade, you won't even qualify for the funding call, for the interview call. So I think getting a good grade is very important. Then getting to know your professors and making them aware that, this is what you want to do, this is what your career path looks like, you want to pursue a PhD is also very important. And then once you let them know, then they'll make you aware about all the different funding opportunities. They will create a space for you in the lab, they will create a space for you in the group research track. So I think these two things are very, very important in applying for fundings. Also keeping in contact with other PhD students, because they know more about what kind of opportunities come up for funding. I think these are the most important things when looking for fundings here.
Very concrete.
Yeah, absolutely. I often kind of consider a PhD, and then I remember just how long it took me to write my master's thesis and move
top
on.
hat though here in Finland. If you get a PhD, that's a big pull for a lot of
people. Yeah. You can talk about the sword as well. I think there's a sword involved.
Yes. All hat.
A lot of writing.
We'll all attend. We'll all be attending.
Everyone is welcome.
No pressure. Well, maybe to the outside of academia, the private sector guests. What, in your experiences here as students, did you take internships or summer jobs during your studies? And would you say, like, well, how did you find them, and were they useful in securing you a position here afterwards, would you say?
Well, I did internships like while I was studying, and summer jobs as well. And that was more, it's part of what you actually have to do. If you take your course at the University of Applied Sciences, you have to go do an internship as part of the actual coursework, which is also why it takes 3.5 years for a bachelor compared to like a 3-year on some of the other universities. But it definitely helps you get a bit more of a practical perspective on things, and also just helps you again like get a better network, a wider network, meet more people. And just kind of prepare you a bit more for like the professional work after academia.
Yeah, thanks. Marketa,
I was actually not working directly in having summer jobs, but the university also, the masters, and then of course the PhD. There are so many projects where you are working with the companies, and many different companies, and many different fields. So I think that was the great opportunity again not just the grades. I'm saying like it's really good thing to go to the professor and say, okay, I'm really interested in this topic, and there might be some project that they are already working on, or there might be some new openings. So a great chance to start to work with the industry and different companies and have the connections and networking that you would need also in the future.
Thank you.
Definitely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think maybe as internationals, especially if you are coming, as we did, I guess, you're coming to Finland from your career back home.
Yes.
And you kind of doing another master's to kind of like help create the networks. And then I remember the first time I was thinking like, oh, should I apply to this internship? I've already been a professional for like 6 or 7 years back home. Is this really for me? But kind of taking those opportunities and being open to positions that I wouldn't necessarily have applied for had I been back home, I think in many ways has opened up a lot of doors for me in Finland. I mean,
yeah, being humble and sometimes start from the beginning in your work path is a key. So the career you have back home is not necessarily relevant in the new job market that you are in. So you need some time to start from scratch. And I think even having somebody that guides you through this process is very important. Did you have, like, for example, mentors to help you through your careers? Or some kind of guidances, job coaching, this professional figure? Shruti, you're nodding, so tell us more.
So I think for me, in my case, I had very good supervisors during my master's thesis work and also during my summer internships who kind of guided me through, okay, what kind of places I can apply for, what kind of funding I can apply for my PhD. And I also got in contact with certain students who had already been through the process. So it was much more easier that way for me to figure out kind of, okay, what's the next step that I should take. So I think that way mentors definitely help you out. You should get in touch with some people if you know.
They're willing to help. Yes.
Yes.
What about you? Do you have a mentor, somebody that guide you from your?
Only like partly through at the school at the bachelor's degree. We had, of course, you have like the little guidance counselor that's there. But otherwise, for me, it's been more just people outside of like what I was studying. It's been friends of friends. Parents and relatives and stuff like that that's been guiding you through. Like the job I have now, it was a friend of my wife that we asked her, oh, do you have any open positions? Like, oh, you can apply. And I applied, got the had the interview on a Tuesday. Thursday I went to sign the contract and then started the week after. So that was
wow. Congratulations. UMAC sounds very easy.
Just apply, you know.
Yeah, just apply.
Also don't be afraid of a no, because like that's the thing. Don't be afraid of rejection, because that's gonna happen. It's just a natural part of things, and that's just how it is. So just apply and be ready for it, because you never know if they're gonna say yes or no. Worst thing that can happen, they say no, and what do? You just go apply somewhere else instead. Then.
Yeah, don't be afraid of failures.
Yes.
That's a good tip.
Definitely. And that kind of resilience and reinvention, I guess, is maybe also what Joel was talking about.
Yeah.
It's like his chosen career maybe wasn't going to be the way forward in Finland, so he kind of managed to was open to other opportunities. Marketa, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was thinking that at the university there is already some support provided to the students, and at work we have also mentoring. So basically, if you want help and need help, then you are always able to get it from different places.
Well, that was really intense, wasn't it?
Yeah. We have loads more questions in the chat, but unfortunately we just don't have time to go through everything. Maybe we can kind of put some questions to you after the event and do a little follow-up.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Follow-up mail out to people. But for the time being, thank you to all three of you for such an illuminating discussion and sharing your experiences. And I think it's so important, this kind of like peer-to-peer support. So
yes. Thank you, dear panelists. If you have time, please step by with other students that are here with us today. But I think we are about wrapping this event, unfortunately.
We are getting to the close. So, thanks everyone, and we'll see you in a moment for the final words.
Thank you.
Welcome back for, unfortunately, the final time. Wow, what a show. How do you feel?
It was really intense, but really fun. Those stereotypes were something, weren't they?
Absolutely. I think I feel inspired. I feel overwhelmed. I feel exhausted. Certainly, after the show, do check out the website, Study and Stay, Utopi Sophie Study and Stay. All the information is on there. I think it'll take quite a while to digest everything we've gone through this evening. But
well, we are great expert keynote speech. Who would you like to thank for this evening?
Well, there's one very special person I'd like to thank. That's Joel Willens for the keynote, and all of our panelists, Mika and Essie and Marketa and Truti and Mikkel. Anyone you'd like to mention?
My mama, of course. I'm joking. No, I would like to thank the audience. I was overwhelmed, but the chat was so active and so many interesting questions we have. So thanks for following us. I hope you're still awake at this time.
Yeah, you can keep joining the conversation, please, afterwards on social media. We'd love to hear your comments, your feedback, any questions we didn't get through. We'll try and put to our panelists. Use the hashtag StudyInTurku, hashtag TalentTurku.
Yes, let's keep the conversation going on social media. And I think this is it.
Yes, a huge thanks again to all the unseen people who made it possible, the organising teams, the Mama Creative, Suvianni, of course.
Thank you, Suvianni.
and Lucia, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, you're a darling. Thank you, Jonathan. It was really to be on stage with you. But thanks to all our international talents, because let's not forget that Finland needs all of you and all of us to prosper. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great evening, everyone. Hopefully
Good
see
night.
you soon. Good evening.